Hi, welcome back to another week of Devotions from History. On April 12th of 1914, people walking by the Grand Opera House in Hot Springs, Arkansas must have wondered what was going on in there. For 10 days there had been the sounds of exuberant preaching, singing, and praying. What was going on? Well, what it was a gathering of about 300 early Pentecostal believers who came together for the purpose of finding a little more organizational unity. They had some spiritual unity with what they were doing in that Pentecostal movement, but they needed some organization so that they could accomplish more of what they felt God wanted them to do. It was not an easy journey for many of them. One young attendee from Tennessee reports living mostly on bananas and Cracker Jacks for the entire 10 days. But the sacrifices that this small group of people made didn't seem like much in comparison with what they wanted to do for God, what they felt like He had called them to do. And they decided to call the organization that they were forming the General Council of the Assemblies of God. Now, not everybody who attended that meeting joined up with the formal organization, but those that did met again 7 months later in November, where this group of people committed themselves to attempt the greatest evangelism that the world has ever seen. Now, at that point in 1914, the Assemblies of God had about 400 ministers. And I don't think that anyone at that point would have thought that less than 100 years later that the Assemblies of God would grow to be one of the largest Protestant denominations in the world, with adherents of over 61 million today. I'm sure there were a lot of people that thought that they wouldn't even be around 100 years later, let alone have the kind of influence that the Assemblies of God have had over the last 100 years. You know, we often look at things that start small and wonder how they could ever grow. But according to Jesus, some of the greatest things that God does begin with very small things. Do you remember He said that if you had faith like the grain of mustard seed, a very small thing, that God could do huge things with you? So how about you? Maybe you look at what you have today and it's pretty small. It seems like maybe you're from the wrong side of the tracks, poorly financed, very little influence, but you have big dreams. Don't hesitate to take the first step on those big dreams. Just like those early Pentecostal believers took one small step and later it has become a huge organization, you too today can take a step to fulfill the dreams that God has given you. Because that really is how history gets made. It starts small and then grows big.